I'm sitting in the boardroom right now. Mahogany table, leather chairs that cost more than most people's cars, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan 47 stories up. Everything looks exactly as it should. Powerful, impressive, the kind of room that makes decisions worth billions. Except I can feel the flash drive in my jacket pocket burning against my ribs like a live coal. And I know that in exactly 47 hours and 12 minutes, I have to walk back into this room and make a choice that will destroy either my career or my soul. Maybe both. Let me back up. 3 days ago, I was Emily Carter, Vice President of Strategic Development at Caldwell Industries, the only woman who'd ever made it to the executive board. Youngest executive in company history at 31 years old. The success story everyone pointed to when they talked about breaking glass ceilings. I'd spent 8 years clawing my way up, 8 years proving myself in every meeting, every negotiation, every quarterly review, 8 years of arriving first and leaving last, 8 years of being twice as good to be considered half as competent. 3 days ago, I thought I knew who I was, what I stood for, the price I'd paid to sit in that leather chair. Then I found the files, and everything I'd built started to crack. So here I am, Wednesday afternoon, 47 hours before the biggest merger in company history. 47 hours before I have to decide who I'm going to be. But first, you need to understand how I got here. You need to understand what I found. And you need to understand why walking away from this is the hardest thing I've ever had to consider doing. Who am I? That's the question I've been asking myself for 3 days straight. Who is Emily Carter when you strip away the title and the salary and the corner office? I'm the girl from Providence, Rhode Island, who grew up watching her mother clean other people's houses. I'm the scholarship kid who put herself through Boston University, waiting tables at a seafood restaurant where the kitchen smelled like old grease and desperation. I'm the graduate student who chose psychology because I wanted to help people, wanted to understand why we do the things we do, why we hurt each other, why we hurt ourselves. I'm also the woman who gave up her therapy practice after 3 years because corporate psychology paid 6 times more and required half the emotional labor. I'm divorced because I chose ambition over intimacy. My ex-husband, David, used to joke that I was married to my career, except he wasn't joking, and eventually he stopped trying to compete with something he couldn't win against. I practice confidence in mirrors. Did you know that I stand in front of my bathroom mirror and practice my voice to sound more authoritative? Practice my stance to take up more space? Practice my laugh to seem less threatening? I've turned myself into a performance piece, and for 8 years it worked. Richard Caldwell was the one who made it work, the CEO who'd given me chances when other executives saw me as a diversity hire, a box to check, a way to make the board look progressive without actually changing anything. But Richard was different, or so I thought. He taught me how to read a balance sheet like poetry, how to negotiate like breathing, how to see 3 moves ahead in every corporate chess game. He was the mentor every ambitious woman dreams of finding, the one who actually opens doors instead of just talking about it. "You're brilliant, Emily," he'd tell me. "Don't let anyone make you doubt that." I believed him. God, I believed him. My life before this week was controlled chaos. Up at 5 in the morning for a run along the reservoir, in the office by 7, meetings until noon, working lunch, more meetings, strategy sessions, conference calls with the London office at 8 in the evening, home by 9 if I was lucky, 10 or 11 most nights. I have a Victorian house in Connecticut that I bought because it was a good investment. I've lived there for 2 years, and I still haven't finished unpacking. My cat Poe has given up waiting for me to actually spend time at home. He treats me like an inconsiderate roommate who occasionally remembers to fill his food bowl. But I was good at my job. Better than good. I could walk into a hostile acquisition meeting and walk out with signatures and smiles. I could read the subtext in every corporate memo, every boardroom power play, every executive's carefully managed expression. My psychology background gave me an edge. I could see the motivations beneath the spreadsheets. That's what makes this so much worse. I should have seen it coming. Monday morning started like any other Monday. Coffee from the place on 42nd Street that knows my order without asking. Black, no sugar, extra shot. Briefcase that weighs approximately 15 pounds with my laptop and 3 different project binders. The merger meeting with Davidson Tech was scheduled for 9 in the morning. 6 months of negotiation coming down to final signatures. $230 million. The biggest deal Caldwell Industries had ever attempted. I got to the boardroom at 8:45. Richard was already there, looking relaxed in that way. Only men with generational wealth can pull off. Expensive suit that didn't try too hard. Graying hair that made him look distinguished instead of old. Smile that said he owned the room. Which technically he did. Emily, ready to make history. I smiled back. Always. The other board members filtered in. Davidson's team arrived at 8:58. Punctual. Professional. Their CFO was a woman about my age. We exchanged that brief nod. Women give each other in male-dominated spaces. The one that says, I see you, I respect the battle you fought to be here. 9 o'clock. Time to start. Except Jessica Monroe wasn't there. Jessica Monroe, our chief financial officer. The woman responsible for presenting the financial due diligence that would make or break this deal. The woman who never missed crucial meetings. The woman who lived in the office even more than I did. Where's Jessica? I asked Richard quietly. He didn't even blink. Called in sick. Some kind of virus. She sounded terrible. I told her to stay home and rest. Something about his tone bothered me. Too casual, too prepared, like he'd rehearsed the answer. That's not like her. Everyone gets sick sometimes, Emily. He turned to the room, raising his voice. Jessica's under the weather, so Emily will be covering the financial overview. She's been instrumental in this deal. I have complete confidence in her. Every eye in the room turned to me. The Davidson CFO looked impressed. This was a huge opportunity, the kind of moment that makes careers. So why did my stomach feel like I'd swallowed stones? The meeting went fine. More than fine. I presented the numbers I knew inside and out, fielded questions about revenue projections and market analysis. The Davidson team seemed satisfied. By 11 o'clock, we were talking about signing timelines. We'll have final documents ready by Friday, Richard said. Jessica will verify the last financial details and will reconvene for signatures. Handshakes all around. Smiles. That particular energy that comes with closing a major deal. But I couldn't stop thinking about Jessica. After the Davidson team left, Richard pulled me aside. Excellent work today, Emily. You might have a future in the CFO role yourself. Jessica's a friend, I said carefully. I should check on her. Make sure she's okay. Something flickered in his eyes. Just for a second. Then it was gone. She's fine. Just needs rest. Sometimes this job takes more out of people than they can handle. Not everyone has your stamina. There it was again. That tone. Like he was suggesting something without saying it directly. I'll just send her a quick email, I said. Of course. He smiled. Take the rest of the day. You earned it. I went back to my office. Sent Jessica an email. Hey, heard you're not feeling well. Need anything, soup company, let me know. She didn't respond. By 3 o'clock, I was genuinely worried. Jessica always responded to emails. Always. Within an hour at most. I called her cell. It went straight to voicemail. I tried to focus on other work. Couldn't. That nagging feeling kept growing. The one I used to get in therapy sessions, when a client was telling me a story that didn't quite add up. When the emotional response didn't match the words. When something beneath the surface was screaming for attention. By 5 o'clock, I made a decision. I'm going to check on Jessica, I told Richard's assistant, just to make sure she's okay. Mr. Caldwell said she needed to rest. I know. I'll just drop off some soup. I won't bother her. I didn't drop off soup. I went to Jessica's office. Her assistant wasn't there. The whole administrative area was empty. Most people left by 5 on Mondays. I stood outside Jessica's closed-door hand on the knob, knowing I was crossing a line. I crossed it anyway. Her office looked normal at first glance. Desk organized, but not obsessively so. Family photos on the credenza. Her daughter at what looked like a high school graduation. Her sister at some beach somewhere. A coffee mug that said world's okayest CFO that I'd given her last Christmas as a joke. Her computer was locked password protected. But I had her admin password. We all did the executive team. For emergencies. For situations exactly like this, when someone was out, and we needed access to critical files. I shouldn't have logged in, but I did. Her email was open. Mostly routine stuff. Meeting invitations. Financial reports. And then I saw it. In her drafts folder. An email that had never been sent. The recipient line said Securities and Exchange Commission. The subject line said formal complaint of financial fraud. The body of the email started, "I have evidence that CEO Richard Caldwell has been systematically embezzling company funds through shell corporations and falsifying my signature on authorization documents. I have documented." That's where it ended, like she'd been interrupted, or like she'd lost her nerve. My hands were shaking. I read it again, then again. This had to be wrong. This had to be some kind of mistake, or misunderstanding, or... I opened her file system, started looking through folders, found one labeled Personal, Do Not Share, buried 3 levels deep in her directory structure. Inside were dozens of files, spreadsheets, bank records, copies of authorization forms, notes with dates and amounts and locations, and a text document titled, What I Know and How I Know It. I should have stopped reading, but I couldn't. Jessica had been building a case, a meticulous, detailed case. She'd documented 5 years of transfers, $47 million. Shell corporations with names that sounded legitimate, Caldwell Strategic Holdings, Caldwell Asset Management, Caldwell Consulting Group. All of them registered to addresses that didn't exist. All of them with bank accounts that traced back eventually circuitously carefully to Richard. And every transfer had been authorized with Jessica's signature, her name on the documents, her approval on the wire transfers. Except she'd noticed something. Small discrepancies at first. Transfers she didn't remember approving, amounts that were just slightly off from what she recalled. She'd started keeping her own records, comparing them to official documents. The signatures didn't match. Someone had forged them, well enough to pass casual inspection, but not well enough to fool her. She'd confronted Richard about it 6 weeks ago, according to her notes. His response, "You're remembering wrong, Jessica. The stress of this job is getting to you. Maybe you need to take some time off, get your head together." Classic gaslighting. I recognized it immediately from my psychology training. Make someone doubt their own memory, their own perception of reality, isolate them, make them think they're the problem. She'd started doubting herself. Her notes said as much. Am I crazy? Am I really misremembering? The documents show my signature. Richard says I approved these transfers. Maybe I did and I just don't remember. Maybe the pressure is making me paranoid. But then she'd done something brilliant. She'd hired a private forensic accountant, used her own money, had them look at the documents independently. They'd confirmed it. The signatures were forged. The transactions were fraudulent. Richard Caldwell had stolen $47 million from his own company over 5 years. And he'd made it look like Jessica had authorized all of it. That's when she'd started writing the email to the SEC, building her courage, gathering evidence, planning to blow the whistle. And then she'd disappeared. I sat in her chair, staring at the screen, feeling my entire world tilting on its axis. Richard, my mentor, the man who'd believed in me, who'd championed me, who'd told me I was brilliant. He was a thief, a fraud, and he'd spent 5 years setting up Jessica to take the fall. I looked under her desk. On instinct, the way you do when you're looking for something hidden. There was a drawer, one of those shallow ones that nobody really uses. I pulled it open. A flash drive was taped to the underside. The kind of hiding place that says, someone was afraid. Someone who knew they might not get another chance. Someone who thought they might disappear. I peeled it free, put it in my pocket, logged out of her computer, turned off the light, walked out of her office like nothing had happened. But everything had happened. Everything had changed. I didn't go home Monday night. I couldn't. I drove to my office, locked the door, plugged in the flash drive. It took me 7 hours to go through everything. 7 hours of bank records and authorization forms and email chains and meeting notes. 7 hours of watching a pattern emerge. A pattern of theft so carefully constructed, so methodically executed, that you'd never see it unless you knew exactly what to look for. Transfers that stayed just under audit thresholds. Timing that coincided with quarterly reports when everyone was focused elsewhere. Shell corporations that looked legitimate on paper. Board authorizations that seemed routine until you noticed the forged signatures. $47 million. Over 5 years. Small enough increments that nobody questioned it. Large enough to destroy everything if it came out. And Jessica. Poor Jessica. She'd tried to be careful, tried to build an airtight case before coming forward, but she'd made one critical mistake. She'd told Richard she was suspicious. She'd given him time to prepare, time to reframe the narrative, time to make her look unstable, overwhelmed, paranoid. By the time she was ready to go to the SEC, he'd already laid the groundwork for her destruction. I found her personal notes toward the end of the files. The ones that weren't about numbers or transactions. The ones that were about her. I don't trust my own memory anymore. Richard keeps telling me I approved these transfers and the documents show my signature, but I swear I never saw these authorization forms. I'm starting to question everything. Did I approve them? Am I really losing my grip on reality? Later, the forensic accountant confirmed it. The signatures are forged. I'm not crazy. I'm not paranoid. Richard has been stealing from the company and framing me for it. I need to report this. I need to do the right thing. Last entry dated 6 days ago. I'm scared. Richard knows I know. I saw it in his face today during the budget meeting. That cold look. That calculation. I think he's planning something. I think he's going to make his move before I can make mine. I've hidden copies of everything. If something happens to me, if I suddenly resign or have a breakdown or disappear, someone needs to know the truth. I read that last line over and over. If something happens to me. It was 2 a.m. when I finally closed the laptop. My hands were shaking. My throat was tight. I felt like I might throw up. Actually, I did throw up. In my office trash can. Which was mortifying even though no one was there to see it. Because I realized something. Something that made my stomach turn and my heart race and my entire sense of reality fracture. I'd been part of it. Not intentionally. Not directly. But every time Richard had suggested Jessica was confused or overwhelmed or making mistakes, I'd nodded along. I'd believed him. I'd helped isolate her. 6 weeks ago, she'd approached me after a meeting, asked if I'd noticed any irregularities in the financial reports, any discrepancies in the authorization process. No, I'd told her, everything looks fine to me. Why is something wrong? She'd hesitated. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. This job is stressful, I'd said. Believe me, I get it. Maybe you need a vacation. When's the last time you took a real break? I'd said that. I'd looked her in the eye and suggested she was stressed, implied she was seeing problems that weren't there. And now she was gone. I sat in my dark office, looking out at the Manhattan skyline, trying to figure out what kind of person I'd become. What kind of person prioritizes ambition over instinct? What kind of person dismisses another woman's concerns because it's easier than questioning the system? There's a concept in psychology called moral injury. It's what happens when you witness or participate in something that violates your core values. Soldiers get it, doctors get it. Healthcare workers get it. And apparently executives get it too. I could feel it happening. The fracture between who I thought I was and what I'd allowed to happen. Between my self-image as someone ethical, someone good, and the reality of my complicity. I needed to find Jessica. I needed to know she was okay. I needed to know this wasn't worse than corporate fraud. I called her cell again. Voicemail. I looked up her emergency contact information in the HR system. Her sister, Rachel Monroe. I found Rachel's number. 3 a.m. is not a good time to call anyone, but I did it anyway. She answered on the 5th ring. Groggy. Suspicious. Hello. Rachel. This is Emily Carter. I work with your sister Jessica. I'm sorry to call so late, but I'm trying to reach her and she's not here. Do you know where she is? It's important. Long pause. Who is this again? Emily Carter, Vice President of Strategic Development at Caldwell Industries. Jessica and I work together. I'm worried about her. Are you the one who told her she was paranoid, that she needed to take a vacation? My stomach dropped. She told you about that. She told me everything. She told me how that bastard CEO was gaslighting her, how none of her colleagues would believe her, how she was starting to think she was actually losing her mind. I made a mistake, I said quietly. I should have listened to her. I should have believed her. That's why I'm calling. I found her files. I know she was right, and I need to know she's safe. Another long pause. She's safe. For now. But I'm not telling you where. I don't know if I can trust you. I understand. Just tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I believe her. And tell her she was right to run. Rachel's voice got very quiet. You found the files. I found everything. Then you know what he's capable of. You know what he did to the CFO before Jessica, the one who retired early for personal reasons. My blood went cold. There was another one. Margaret Sheffield. She was CFO before Jessica. Jessica found her on Facebook 6 months ago. They talked. Margaret told her everything. How Richard had been running the same scheme. How he'd tried to frame her. How she'd agreed to resign quietly instead of fighting him because he'd threatened to destroy her professionally. Blacklist her. Ruin her reputation. Make sure she never worked again. Oh my God. Jessica wasn't the first person to figure out what Richard was doing. She was just the first person brave enough to consider fighting back. And look where that got her. Hiding from her own career. Too scared to go to her own apartment. I closed my eyes. I'm going to fix this. How he's the CEO. He has the board in his pocket. He has lawyers and money and power. What do you have? Evidence, I said. And I'm the success story. The woman who broke barriers. The one everyone points to when they talk about progress. If I stand up and say this happened, people will have to listen. Or they'll destroy you the way they destroyed Jessica. And Margaret. And whoever came before Margaret. Maybe I admitted. Probably. But I was a therapist once. Before I sold out for a corner office. And I remember what I used to tell trauma survivors. Staying silent doesn't keep you safe. It just keeps the abuser powerful. Rachel was quiet for a long time. Then I'll tell Jessica you called. I'll tell her what you said. But she's been through hell. I don't know if she's strong enough to fight anymore. Tell her she doesn't have to fight alone this time. I hung up, sat in the darkness, and started making a plan. Tuesday morning I went to work like nothing had happened, smiled at the receptionist, got my coffee, checked my email, attended my 9 o'clock meeting about the Davidson merger timeline. Richard was there, looking relaxed, confident. He caught my eye and smiled, that mentor smile, the one that used to make me feel valued, protected. Now it made my skin crawl. Emily, I've been thinking, he said as the meeting wrapped up. Come to my office. I want to discuss something. I followed him, closed the door behind me. He poured 2 glasses of expensive scotch, even though it was 9:30 in the morning. I'm making you CFO, he said. Just like that. No preamble. I kept my face neutral. What about Jessica? Jessica submitted her resignation last night, effective immediately. Mental health reasons. The stress of the job became too much for her. Very sad. But these things happen in high-pressure environments. He slid the resignation letter across the desk, Jessica's signature at the bottom. Except I'd seen her real signature enough times to know this one was slightly off. The J leaned wrong. The loop on the M was too tight. Forged. Just like the authorization forms. The board met an emergency session this morning, Richard continued. Approved Jessica's resignation and your appointment. You'll take over immediately. Get up to speed on the Davidson merger. Present the final financial overview Friday morning. And then we close the deal. He raised his glass. Congratulations, Emily. This is what we've worked toward. You and me. Breaking barriers. Showing them a woman can handle the top financial role at a Fortune 500 company. I picked up my glass. Didn't drink. This seems very fast. Opportunities don't wait for convenient timing. You're ready for this. You've earned this. Don't let Jessica's breakdown make you doubt your own capabilities. There it was. The reframing. The manipulation. Making Jessica's destruction sound like a cautionary tale about weak women who can't handle pressure. What if I'm not ready? I asked carefully. Then you'll rise to the occasion. That's what you do, Emily. That's what makes you special. You don't quit when things get hard. You don't see conspiracies where there aren't any. You focus on results. That last line was the warning. Don't ask questions. Don't look too closely. Focus on what matters. Your career, your advancement, your success. I'd like to talk to Jessica, I said. Get her handoff notes. Make sure I understand all the details. She's not taking calls. The doctors recommended a complete break from work. No contact with anyone from the office. It's better for her recovery. The doctors, the psychiatrists at the facility we arranged for her, private, discreet, the best care money can buy. We're taking care of her, Emily. We take care of our people. He said it so smoothly, like he believed it. Like forcing someone into a psychiatric facility wasn't kidnapping, wasn't imprisonment, wasn't a way to silence someone who knew too much. That's very generous, I managed. We're family here. We protect each other. He leaned back in his chair, studied me. You understand that, don't you? Emily family, loyalty, family, protecting family. The threat was clear. You're part of this now. You benefit from this system. Don't betray the family. Of course, I said. Good. Your new office is ready. Jessica's old office. I had her personal items packed up and sent to her sister's place. Fresh start for you. They'd already erased her, packed her up, made her disappear. Thank you, Richard. This is incredible. He smiled, satisfied. You've earned it. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I left his office, walked to Jessica's old office, my new office. They'd removed every trace of her. The photos were gone, the coffee mug was gone, her files were gone. It looked like she'd never existed. I sat in her chair, the chair where she'd built her case, the chair where she'd questioned her own sanity, the chair where she'd made the decision to stand up to a powerful man. And I made a decision too. I spent Tuesday morning pretending everything was normal, fielding congratulations from colleagues who'd heard about my promotion, smiling and saying thank you and acting like this was the opportunity of a lifetime. Which technically it was, just not in the way they thought. By noon, I'd found Lila Chen, Jessica's administrative assistant, 23 years old, political science degree, plans for law school. She was at her desk, packing her things into a cardboard box. Lila, are you leaving? She looked up at me. Her eyes were red. I quit. Can we talk in private? She hesitated, then nodded. We went to a conference room on a different floor, away from executive territory. I closed the door, sat down across from her. You know, don't you, she said, about Jessica. I know Richard framed her. I know she was right about everything. And I know she's somewhere safe. I talked to her sister. Lila's shoulders sagged with relief. She told me if anything happened to her, if she suddenly resigned or disappeared to remember, it wasn't her fault. She made me promise. And then yesterday morning they told me she'd resigned, mental health issues. And I knew it was happening exactly like she said it would. Why are you quitting? Because I can't be part of this. I can't sit here and pretend everything's fine while they destroy people. Jessica was kind to me. She was brilliant and careful, and she tried to do the right thing. And they crushed her. They made her look crazy. They made her disappear. Lila wiped her eyes. I'm not brave enough to fight them, but I'm not going to work for them either. What if you didn't have to fight alone? She looked at me, hopeful, skeptical. What are you saying? I'm saying I have Jessica's files. All of them. The evidence she compiled. The case she built. And I'm going to take it to the SEC. But I need witnesses. I need people who saw what happened to her. Who can testify that she wasn't unstable or paranoid, that she was methodical and careful and telling the truth. They'll destroy you too, Lila whispered. Probably. But Jessica almost came to me for help. Did you know that your sister told me? She thought about coming to me because I used to be a therapist. Because I might understand about trauma and gaslighting and what powerful people do to make you doubt reality. But she was afraid I was too close to Richard, that I'd already chosen. Had you? That was the question, wasn't it? Yes, I had, without even realizing it. Every time I dismissed her concerns, every time I suggested she was stressed, every time I nodded along when Richard called her confused, I chose comfort over courage. I chose my career over the truth. So why are you changing your mind now? Because I saw her notes. I saw what he did to her. I saw how she started doubting her own mind. And I realized I'd helped him do it. I'd been a weapon he used against her without even knowing it. I leaned forward. I'm changing my mind because I don't want to be that person anymore. And because maybe if I do this right, I can stop him from doing it to the next woman. And the one after that. Lila was quiet for a long time. Then, what do you need from me? Testimony. Dates and times. Emails, if you kept any. Anything that shows Jessica was competent and careful right up until Richard started his campaign against her. I have emails. I saved them. I don't know why. Just instinct, I guess. That something wasn't right. Good instinct. Can you send them to me personal email, not work? She nodded. Are you really going to do this? Go against Richard Caldwell. He'll destroy your career. I know, but Jessica tried to do it alone. And look what happened. Maybe two of us have a better shot. 3, Lila said quietly. I'll testify. I'll tell them what I saw, what Jessica told me, how she changed after Richard started targeting her. I was going to law school anyway. Might as well have a good story for my application essay. I smiled despite everything. You're going to be a hell of a lawyer. I hope so, because we're going to need one. Tuesday afternoon, I called my ex-husband, David Chen, corporate attorney, specializes in securities law and white-collar crime. We hadn't spoken in 2 years. Not since I'd signed the divorce papers. He answered on the third ring, Emily. Just hearing his voice made my chest tight. All the history, all the choices that had led to us ending. Hi, David. I need legal advice. Are you in trouble? That depends on your definition of trouble. What's going on? I told him. All of it. The files, the fraud, Jessica's disappearance, the forged resignation, my promotion, the impossible choice. He was quiet for a long time after I finished. Then, you need to go to the SEC. Tonight. Before Richard realizes, before he can do to you what he did to Jessica. I'll lose everything. Better than losing your life? These aren't accounting errors, Emily. This is serious criminal activity. $47 million. Forced psychiatric commitment. If he's already dealt with Jessica this way, if there was another woman before her, he's escalating. And you're the next threat. I was his protege, his success story. He won't hurt me. He won't see it as hurting you. He'll see it as protecting himself, neutralizing a threat. That's what abusers do, Em. You know this. You used to counsel abuse survivors. He was right. I did know this. The pattern was classic. Isolation, gaslighting, escalation, violence when necessary. I need more time, I said. I need to make sure Jessica will testify. I need to coordinate with witnesses. I need to build an airtight case. How much time? Friday morning, the merger meeting. Richard wants me to present the financial overview. If I do, I'm complicit. My signature on those documents makes me part of the fraud. But if I walk in there and expose him in front of the board and the Davidson executives in front of witnesses, he can't make it quietly disappear. That's incredibly dangerous. I know. Emily, his voice got softer. Why are you doing this? You could just walk away, resign quietly. Let someone else deal with it. Because Jessica almost came to me for help and I failed her. Because there was a woman before Jessica who nobody helped. Because if I don't do this, there will be another woman after me. And another after her. And I'm not sure I can live with myself if I let that keep happening. You always did have an overdeveloped sense of justice. It's one of the things I loved about you. Loved. Past tense. Because I'd chosen ambition over us. Because I'd put my career before our marriage. Because I'd turned into someone who practiced confidence in mirrors instead of actually being confident in who I was. David, if this goes badly. If Richard tries something before Friday, I'm sending you copies of all the files. You're my backup plan. I'm on speed dial with the SEC as we speak. If I don't hear from you every 6 hours between now and Friday morning, I'm calling them myself. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This might ruin your life. My life is already ruined. It's just taking me a while to notice. We hung up. I sat in my office, Jessica's office, and wondered when I'd become someone who needed to ruin her own life to feel like herself again. Wednesday morning, I got a text from an unknown number. This is Jessica. Rachel gave me your number. Are you serious about doing this? I typed back immediately. Yes, completely serious. I have all your files. I have witnesses. I have a plan. Richard will destroy you. He already destroyed the person I wanted to be. I'm just making it official. Long pause. The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. Then, the merger meeting Friday. He's going to make you present the financials, make you vouch for the company's integrity. If you do, you'll be complicit. He's setting you up to take the fall if everything comes out. My stomach dropped. You're sure? That's his pattern. That's what he did to Margaret Sheffield. Made her sign off on documents she didn't fully understand. Then when questions came up, her signature was all over everything. She looked guilty. He looked like a victim of her incompetence. So if I present Friday, you become the new Jessica, the new scapegoat. He's not promoting you, Emily. He's positioning you. I thought about the resignation letter on Richard's desk, Jessica's forged signature, the way he'd packed up her office so quickly, the way he'd told me not to contact her, the psychiatric facility he'd mentioned so casually. He'd done this before. He'd do it again. He was doing it right now. Then I don't present his version I typed. I present the truth. In front of everyone, in front of the board, in front of everyone. Davidson executives, board members, witnesses who can't be silenced. If I'm going down, I'm taking him with me. The three dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then I'll testify. I'll come to the meeting. I'll stand with you. It's not safe. He knows you're a threat. I'm a threat whether I hide or not. At least this way I get to face him. At least this way someone believes me. I felt tears burning in my eyes. I should have believed you from the start. I'm sorry. You're believing me now. That's what matters. Friday morning, 9 o'clock, I'll be there. Friday morning, we end this. Wednesday afternoon, Victoria Cross called me into her office. Victoria was the most senior board member, 70 years old, elegant, sharp. Everyone assumed she was Richard's most loyal ally. 20 years on the board. Never a dissenting vote. Close the door, she said. I closed it, sat down across from her desk. She studied me with eyes that missed nothing. You found Jessica's files, she said. Not a question, a statement. My heart raced. I don't know what you mean. Don't insult my intelligence, Emily. I've been on this board for 20 years. I've seen 3 CFOs come and go in increasingly suspicious circumstances. And I've been waiting for someone brave enough or stupid enough to do something about it. Are you going to tell Richard? Tell him what? That I've suspected him of fraud for 3 years, but had no proof and no one willing to risk their career to stand witness. She leaned back in her chair. I'm 70 years old. I have more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. My reputation is secure, but I couldn't prove anything, and I couldn't get anyone to back me up. The board members who weren't in his pocket were too afraid to cross him. The executives who suspected something were too invested in their careers to speak up. So you just let it happen. I documented everything I could. Every suspicious transaction, every odd resignation, every forced retirement, and I waited for an opportunity, for someone who could actually do something. Someone with access and credibility and evidence? She slid a file folder across the desk. I opened it. Bank records, authorization forms, board meeting notes, all documenting suspicious patterns going back 7 years. You've been building a case? I said slowly. I've been building a backup. In case someone ever stepped forward. In case someone ever found the courage I couldn't quite find myself. She looked at me steadily. Are you that someone, Emily? I'm planning to expose him Friday, at the merger meeting. In front of everyone. She nodded slowly. That's either brilliant or suicidal. Possibly both. You could help. You have board authority. You could call for an emergency investigation. And he'd shut it down before it started. He controls 6 of the 9 board seats. No, Emily. The only way this works is if you make it impossible to ignore. If you present evidence in front of too many witnesses to silence. If you force the board's hand by making it a public scandal. That's the plan. Then you have my support. When you present your evidence, I'll move for Richard's immediate suspension. I'll second any call for investigation. And I'll make sure it goes to the SEC instead of being buried internally. Why are you doing this? You could pretend you never knew. Keep your reputation clean. Because I'm 70 years old, and I'd like to look in the mirror and see someone I respect. Because I've spent 3 years watching Richard destroy women, and I've done nothing to stop it. And because you remind me of who I was 40 years ago, before I learned to be comfortable, before I learned to stay silent. She stood, extended her hand. I shook it. Good luck, Friday, Emily. You're going to need it. Thursday was the longest day of my life. I went through the motions at work, reviewed the merger documents Richard wanted me to present, practiced the presentation he expected me to give, all while building a completely different presentation. The real one, the honest one, the one that would destroy everything. I put together slides showing the pattern of fraud, the shell corporations, the forged signatures, the $47 million. I included Jessica's documentation, Victoria's records, Lila's testimony about Jessica's competence right up until Richard's campaign against her. I made 2 versions of every document, the official merger presentation and the truth. Thursday evening, Richard invited me to dinner. Celebration dinner, he called it. Congratulations on my promotion. We went to his usual place, Expensive restaurant in Midtown, the kind where they know his name and always have his favorite table ready. "You've been quiet this week," he said over appetizers. "Everything okay? Just overwhelmed. It's a big job, big responsibility. You'll be fine. You're a natural." He sipped his wine, studied me. Jessica used to get overwhelmed too, started seeing things that weren't there, making connections that didn't exist. "The stress of this job breaks people, Emily, but not you. You're stronger than that." There it was again, the subtle undermining, the suggestion that questioning anything meant you were weak, unstable, not strong enough for this level. "What happened to the CFO before Jessica?" I asked casually. His expression didn't change. "Margaret Sheffield retired early. Personal reasons." "Why do you ask?" "Just curious. It seems like the CFO position has high turnover. It's a difficult role. Not everyone can handle it." Margaret realized she wasn't cut out for the pressure. Jessica realized the same thing. "But you're different. You've proven you can handle anything." "What if I find something I can't handle? What if I discover something that makes me uncomfortable?" His eyes sharpened, just slightly. "Like what?" "Hypothetically. What if I found evidence of financial irregularities? What would you want me to do?" "I'd want you to come to me first, before going to anyone else. Because sometimes things that look irregular are actually legitimate but complex. Sometimes people jump to conclusions based on incomplete information. And sometimes," he leaned forward, "sometimes people create problems where there aren't any because they're looking for ways to make themselves seem important, ways to justify their paranoia." The threat was clear. If you find something, you come to me. You don't go to authorities. You don't make noise. You keep it in the family. "Of course," I said. "That makes sense." "Good, because tomorrow is important, Emily. Tomorrow you present to the board and Davidson's team. Tomorrow you vouch for our financial integrity. Tomorrow you become the face of Caldwell Industries' financial operations. Your reputation, your credibility, your career, it all depends on tomorrow going smoothly." He was telling me exactly what Jessica's text had warned about. Tomorrow I either became complicit or I became the problem. "I understand," I said. "I hope so, because I'd hate to see you throw away everything we've built, everything you've worked for, all because of some misplaced sense of righteousness or some paranoid conspiracy theory." He knew, I knew, and he was giving me one last chance to back down, one last chance to choose my career over the truth. "I would never do that," I said. He smiled, relaxed, satisfied that I'd gotten the message. That's my girl. That's the Emily I trained. Smart, practical, focused on what matters. We finished dinner. He paid, walked me to my car, told me to get a good night's sleep. I drove home, sat in my Victorian house with Poe curled up beside me, and waited for Friday morning. I didn't sleep Thursday night. I sat in my living room going over my presentation again and again, checking every detail, every citation, every piece of evidence. At 3 a.m, I got a text from Jessica. "I'm scared." I texted back, "Me too. We could still walk away. Both of us. Just disappear. Let someone else deal with this." "Do you think there will be someone else? Or will he just keep doing this to the next woman and the next?" Long pause. "I keep thinking about Margaret Sheffield, how she took his deal, retired quietly, gave up rather than fighting. And I don't blame her, but I also don't want to be her. I don't want to spend the rest of my life knowing I let him win." "Then we don't let him win." "What if this doesn't work? What if the..."